Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Notes with Jack. This is episode 28.
Wow.
My name is Alan Fox, and I am here today with the director of the 2000 Broadway hit, The Full Monty.
Yeah.
His name is Jack O'Brien.
It probably is.
Talk to me about The Full Monty. I realize we've never talked about that. And we got a cool video from Jerry Mitchell the other day talking about he learned the art of collaboration from you.
You are asking people to send videos. What happens to them? I'm hearing this from all different. I'm not to know about this.
I've told you about these things. We put them on Instagram because I'm trying to create a database of notes that people have received from you. So we put them on Instagram and we put them on the website. So what I'm hoping is going to happen, I mean, right now we got 6, but what I'm hoping is going to happen is one of these days we'll have 600 so people can go to the website and just scroll through all these different people talking about the most meaningful note they received from you.
Who would want to do that?
Well, I don't know. 6 people have wanted to do it so far.
The Full Monty. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, in the long trajectory of my history with Lindsay Law, a name that I crop up a lot here.
Yeah.
He was the head of Fox Searchlight. He created Fox Searchlight in Los Angeles, and for 10 years or so, was its CEO.
Yeah,
and he produced that movie. That was his movie
first. Oh, it was a British film. I was reading about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like Magic Mike.
Better.
I mean, it's just strippers. Or like male strippers?
Well, yeah. I mean, it
sound like it had more heart when I was reading the synopsis.
Oh my God, it's a wonderful story.
Yeah,
because it's people afflicted financially. The guys can't make a living. You know, it's what we only recognize. I don't know why someone isn't reviving that show because it is a gorgeous score and wonderfully funny. Well, anyway, are you sure we haven't talked about it?
I don't think we have, man.
Okay,
because when I read about it, I was like, I never knew this was about guys stripping.
Well, it isn't, but yes, it is. Of course it is. Ultimately, it is. I got a funny story to tell you about that, too.
Okay, talk to me.
But Lindsay called me up. He was in L.A. in those years, living on the coast. And he called me and he said, I'm getting all these offers. People want to make this into a musical. Mm-hmm. And he said, why don't we make it into a musical? And I said, yeah, I got a barn down here. We can do it.
Yeah.
So we put it together that quickly.
Huh.
He had the rights. I got a hold of Terrence McNally, God rest his soul. And we met. And Terrence loved the idea. And now these days, it takes sometimes 8 to 10 years to put a musical on, right?
Yeah.
And I was saying to everybody, in the old days, in the old days of Broadway, Cole Porter or Irving Berlin would say to his brother, Ethel's got nothing to do next year. Let's write her a musical. And they would write something like Happy Hunting or one of those biodegradable shows.
Sure.
And I said, let's do that. So I didn't have a composer. And this is, I think, like 1999. The summer of 1999 or so. And Adam Gettle, the grandson of Richard Rodgers, was doing his piece, Floyd Collins, at the Globe. Mm-hmm. He'd done it off Broadway, and they came west, and we gave them a berth, because I loved the show, and I thought it was wonderful, and we were doing it. And he's a genius, and he was there, and I said, would you be interested? He said, let me read it. And he read the script that night. He called me the next morning. He said, I'm actually working on something which turned out to be Light in the Piazza. Mm-hmm. And he had a score. But he said, I really can't. But he said, this is one of the best books for a musical I've ever heard. And I said, I agree.
Yeah.
He said, I have a friend, David Yazbek.
Huh.
And I think he's right for this. He said he's never done a show before, but he said these incredible things that I really went ping. He said his work has edge, and he knows the hook of a song. The hook of a song meaning how to get
Yeah.
So I called David Yazbek on the telephone, and he was stupefied.
Yeah.
and said, gosh, wow. I said, could you send us some material? And he did.
Yeah.
He sent us some songs that he'd written, and we listened to them, and we thought, perfect. I mean, we can put those songs in the show. We didn't, but actually he did a couple songs on spec that did go into the show.
Did you pitch him this idea of we're going to do this thing in a year? Because that's actually a part of it I'm really fascinated by. Because I'm so curious, man, like, why does it take so long now?
Well, money for one thing, because things are so expensive. And there I was sitting on one of the best theaters in America,
right,
which I had needed product for.
Right.
And I'm the artistic director. What, let's call the kid,
Yeah.
So it just all came together. I remember that a year later, we sat in my backyard. Tom Hall, my business partner at the time, and Lindsay, and they co-produced. Terrence McNally and David Yazbek and I, and read the draft a year later.
Wow.
And meanwhile, and this is why I think I've told this story, and forgive me if I start repeating myself. God help us if I do. But I had seen a version of the Music Man recently done on Broadway with everybody in this sort of musical comedy. They were all in the musical, and they were doing those things that people do.
Right.
And I thought, I wonder if it's possible just to breathe easily and do a natural show.
Yeah.
And that motivated how we did it. And that's what we did.
Huh. That is so cool.
It is so cool. And it was a huge success at the Globe. And then it moved to New York, and we got great reviews. I mean, we were up against the producers.
Yeah.
And Terrence's closest friend at that time was indeed Nathan Lane. And they were in Chicago. And Nathan would call and say, oh my God, in the middle of the second act, they stood last night when I sang this song. And we're like, the last thing we wanted to hear.
Right.
But we did respectfully extremely well. It's very, very much beloved, that show, and remembered.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of it. It's one of the best things I think I ever did. And that was my first collaboration with Jerry Mitchell. Yeah. I had asked him to do How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and he got, I think, Your Good Man Charlie Brown off Broadway. It was his first solo show, and couldn't do it. But we liked each other enormously. We're both Michigan boys. Sure. And so we had a lot in common. Yeah. And so then this show came in, and I said, Jerry, do you want to do this? And of course, he's 6'4", 6'3", and a basketball player. This will certainly, the score? There's a whole basketball number in it.
No,
you don't even know the score.
In the full Monty? I thought it was about a card game or something. I had always thought like...
It's about the guys being responsible for themselves and wanting to make money. Yeah. And their wives, them deciding that they'll strip for, they'll do it. Sure. And so here's the cute thing. So we did it. It was a success. We took it. Everybody wanted to go to London. We went to London. We did it in the West End. We had a big success. And they do this concert in London every year for the Queen. God rest her soul. At the time, it's a big celebration.
That's the one you told your joke to?
Yeah. Same Queen.
Yeah. We told that.
She's very memorable. Anyway, they invited us to do the finale. And in the finale, Jerry had the idea that this huge lights came down from the ceiling, the full Monty, in brilliant light. And the boys are in front of them. So they're, as the French say, contre-jour, against the light. So you can see the silhouette, but you can't really see the guys, right? So at the last minute, they take their pants off. Sure. And the scene goes on, and they're completely nude. Right. But they're kind of protected.
Yeah. That's a cool thought.
Well, yes, but when they did the concert for the Queen and the royal family are sitting in the royal box adjacent to the theater, next to the stage. And so I'm the Queen. There's the boys. There's the light. They have no problem checking it all out. Sure. And they did.
You really had some pretty memorable interactions with the Queen of England, man. I have to
We were
say.
close. We were tight.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, that's cool.
Anyway,
I'm glad I had no idea what that was. I'm
but
glad
the
we
end of
know.
the first act
Yeah.
is a number where they Jeremiah, I can't. You saw? You saw it, didn't you? Full Monty. There wasn't a real basketball, was it? They just pretended. Yeah, because Jerry played basketball.
Hmm.
So they play basketball, and it's a wonderful number. It's a dance
Hmm.
number that is based on basketball moves.
That's cool.
My first dog, Punky, used to
Right.
go to rehearsal, and she'd bark at that number every night, right? In
Yeah.
rehearsal. She loved it, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder. I guess it's at the library at Lincoln Center. I'm sure it's done.
Yeah.
You should go look at that. That'd be fun for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, you
That's
got
cool.
enough to do.
Maybe so.
You have enough.
Yeah. Well, also I'm in Los Angeles. We'll see. Which you're gonna be. I'm gonna use that as a segue. Which you're gonna be pretty soon when you
Tomorrow.
come. And now disclaimer: we got to be careful about details this episode because there's people that listen last episode know we got in a little trouble. But you've been prepping.
But we
this
handled
week.
it. Everybody was okay with us.
Oh, yeah,
handled it. You handled it beautifully. You
we
really
handled
did.
it great. We handled it great. Talk to me about getting ready this week. You told me when I talked to you on the phone, you said you were learning lines. Talk to us about that.
Man,
What's that like?
Well, it's odd, because I don't learn lines. I mean, I have a lot of stuff in my head, but I don't memorize new lines. And at this age, it's very hard for people to do that. I mean, maybe less for me because I'm so lyric, word oriented anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm now learning the lines that I have to say in this series. And if you're the character in the scene with me and you ask me something, I know what to say because now you give me the cue and then I think, okay, this is my cue.
Sure.
But sometimes I have to have the next idea.
Right.
And I can't remember what they are.
Huh.
They all run together. So every day, I sit down with my iPad and go through, and Jeremiah's been cueing me the last couple of days so that I get a chance to play off somebody. Yeah. And I want to be absolutely word perfect. Yeah. So that no one's nervous about me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you find yourself taking the advice you've been giving actors all these years? Or do you find yourself questioning the advice?
That advice is terrible advice.
Okay. That's what I was wondering because I was honestly kidding? I was imagining you sitting at home going through, doing your scene work and looking at motivations and just being like, man, I have been feeding people so much BS all these years. I don't know what I'm doing.
What does he know?
Right. No, but what is that like? Like being on the other side like that? Like, have there been moments like that?
It's an interesting question. Because I think about it quite often. I'm trying not to be an actor. By that, I'm saying, in all honesty, Michael Patrick King has written this part for me.
Right. We
don't know each other that well, but of course, like people like us in the theater, we know each other extremely well, obviously.
Sure.
He's a director, I'm a director, we're both Irish guys, gay, whatever. So it's a perfect fit. I get to say some funny stuff. I get to say some sort of meaningful stuff. And all I want to do is be real. All I want to do is not get in the way.
Yeah.
And so I know that some of the lines are funny and I know how to make them funny because I direct actors to be funny. I know what to do there. So that stuff's good. And then the stuff where I'm with her, with Lisa Kudrow, I want to make sure that I'm not screwing around with her. Yeah. That I give her whatever quality she needs, because it's about her. The show's about her. It's not about me.
I was about to say, it's your golden rule. It's not about me.
Well, it isn't about me. You're absolutely right. So I'm very conscious of that. And because now I realize I'm not playing a character. It's basically me. Yeah. That's who they want. Yeah. That's what he wanted. He saw this clip of me talking about my career for 50 minutes and said, that's the guy.
Yeah.
And once we talked, and we've had several meetings, and we had breakfast together, and we've had a couple really long, wonderful conversations. Um, he's come up with really good stuff and a good storyline, which I completely understand. And it justifies the fact that the original character in the original 10 years ago, that gentleman has died.
Right.
After the thing. They have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And a lot of my function in the show is to facilitate that situation.
Yeah. You also told me, so, I mean, I love that you know your lines. You also told me you now have a rider in your contract. You're trying to get a stationary bike in your trailer.
Well,
talk to me about that. Talk to me about that. Not officially, but
just came up today. Just came up today. Well, I'm having a lot of trouble with my knees, and people in their 80s too. And my legs aren't as strong as they should be. And I've had this thing that it's got a name, and I'm not going to get it right, because all medical things are like, I just go out of my mind. I don't pay any attention. But in this case, they take the blood out of your knee and they put it in a centrifuge and they spin it so that all the red stuff goes away and there's only pure white stuff that's really you. Sure. And they inject that into the knee and it regenerates the whole process
thing, right?
Yeah, the knee. So I've had it done with both knees, and it takes like a long time to recover. By that I mean, you don't notice anything. I kept saying it's not working, and he said, "Jack, it takes 6 to 8 weeks for anything to happen." Yeah. Now I'm aware that my knees do not hurt, but I still can't get up and downstairs easily or out of chairs without pushing. And he's saying to me, you got to be on a stationary bike because you've got to make your legs stronger, your muscles stronger. That makes sense to me. Yeah. So I'm going to be hanging out in Los Angeles for 3 weeks in my trailer, as it were, waiting to do these few scenes. And I want to get on the bike and sort of see if I can't make it happen. Yeah. I love a project, Alan. I love a project.
No, I know. In this week, the last question I had about you spending this week in Connecticut, in this week, did your feeling shift from, because, we talked about last week a little bit, right? We won't go into it because we can't. But we talked about, you weren't really nervous. You got there. You knew what you were doing. You had a very brief scene. Now you're coming back and you're going to be doing a lot more work. Did anything shift in this week? Was there more of or is it just the same? You're just focused on the task at hand.
I've never been on a set before. I've never been.
Right.
Well, that's not exactly true because I directed television, of course. But as an actor,
it's different.
It's very different. It's different.
It's
like, again, you're just a cog in the wheel. You're just part of the mechanism.
Yeah.
And there's all these people and the booms and all that lighting, and you have to hit your marks and all that stuff. So there was a bit of a learning curve there of me making an adjustment of being not the doer, but the receptor, the person who's there to interpret. And it was a wonderful week. Yeah. I was there 3 days, but that whole day that I was there was a long, tiring day. With a lot of standing around and waiting, and they reshot and all that kind of stuff. But it got me past, I don't know how to do this.
Right.
And I thought, sure I do. I know exactly. I'm a director. I know what he wants. Yeah. And I hope I make the right choices.
Right.
And that's, and so far, he seems to like what I've indicated I'm doing. But of course, he wrote it for me. So it's not like a stretch.
Well, it's also like what you said just a second ago. You're the recipitor versus the doer in everything. So even if you come up with a choice that may not be exactly what they're looking for, you have someone looking over your shoulder helping you out. Whereas when you're the captain of the ship, it's a bit of a different dynamic, right? When you're the director and you say we're going this way, it's a lot more nerve-wracking for someone to put their hand up and say we're not supposed to go that way. You know what I mean?
So what is interesting about that is over the years, I have conscientiously tried to keep myself active on, if that doesn't work, what else could I give you?
Sure.
How else could you say that? How else could you
as a director, you mean?
Yeah.
Right. Uh-huh.
So my mind is geared to not just one idea,
Mm-hmm.
but 100 ways to say, well, here I am. Well, here, whatever.
Yeah.
There's so much of that in my vocabulary
Yeah.
that I think, oh, yeah, I could do 11 different versions of that.
Yeah.
So far, I mean, we've not done any of this, so how do I know? But so far, even the table read, he loved what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to stay in that honest place of not being self-conscious and not making it flashy about me,
Sure.
finding the truth.
Sure.
I'm just finding the truth.
Yeah. Did you ever, it's really interesting you say that, man, because I've been thinking a lot about this. When I've been talking to people after Highest to Lowest, when they want to talk about being a screenwriter, I always tell people, I'm not really a writer, I'm a problem solver, right? And by that, I mean, like you just described, I feel like in many ways, like we have this idea about the artist of it's a thing that we do and it's this and it comes rushing out. I look at it more like what you just described, which is I might have 100 different options for how I know I'm supposed to get to point A to point B. And I'll know which one feels right when I get there.
Mm-hmm.
But by keeping a bunch of different variables in your mind and coming up with a bunch of different solutions as you work through the process, it feels like that's more of creation to me. And it sounds like when you saying that, like that's kind of how you felt as a director.
It's exactly right. Exactly right. And I can hear them in my head.
Yeah.
And when I'm working to learn them,
Mm-hmm.
I try different versions of it.
Sure.
Which is also helpful for me to learn because the value attributes after a while, and I sort of wind a little wool around all that.
Sure.
And I sort of think this feels better than that,
Mm-hmm.
if you know what I mean.
Of course.
But that problem solving thing, I can identify with that because that's what I think I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I put you out there, and then you flounder around. And if it's working, I help you understand that. That's good. Do that again. Or what if you did this? Or I like to give people a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
To explore.
I once heard someone say that talent is just taste, and that once you have a certain level of taste, it's your work ethic that gets you there. You know, like what people call raw talent is oftentimes just taste, that they know what they can get to. And I by the judging by the face you're making, you may not know if it's correct either. But I do like something in this idea of, because I think what I've struggled with often is this real frustration with myself of knowing what something can be and not being able to get there as quickly as I want to with it.
Yes,
which is kind of like this problem solving thing that we're talking about.
Yes.
And I don't know where I heard that quote from, but someone was just saying like what we call talent is just someone with a level of taste that is high enough to keep going, whereas others might stop short of it. And
the only thing that's bothering me about that is taste to me is choices.
Right.
That if you have an affinity, a visual or sort of skill, that you know that this is better than that.
Right.
This is preferable.
Yeah.
And so you are batting things away, getting closer and closer to the refinement that is juste à point, just exactly how you want it to go. And so the taste thing gets in my way a little bit because that has to do with editing. Taste is editing. And I'm thinking options are, Mike Nichols was so good at this because he could objectify the situation and give you a whole different look at it. I mean, I remember him saying, and I'm not going to be able to do this. There were only 3 kinds of scenes. They were seductions, they were arguments, and I can't remember what the other one was. Now, when I think about that, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I know everybody else lit up when Mike said that. So it made sense to them on some level.
Yeah. Or did they just light up because it was him saying it? And they say, well, he probably knows something. That's how most people do.
Well, you know, people wanted to please Mike a lot. And there are people who you need to please. And it becomes, I think, incredible, sometimes too important. I'm wondering about you with those guys, with Spike and Denzel, in terms of, I mean, how difficult that had to be, because on some level they recognize the value of what you are doing, and on some level they sort of resent it, don't they?
I don't know, man.
Come
It's not
on,
my.
come on.
No, it's not. I don't know if that's really my conversation to get into. I think here was my thing, right? Because I actually didn't. I don't know if I've told this story or not, but I actually got in a really like a real kind of argument with Denzel about a moment
No,
in the movie. I thought I
no,
told you that.
no.
Well, it was really interesting, man. But well, now that you're going to be a big Hollywood actor, man, maybe we should talk about this because he
Help
and
me
I,
out.
he and I yeah, man, he and I got into a big discussion because he had a note on one of my draft, because the script changed a great deal, but on my drafts of the script, he had a certain note, and
A note he'd made? You mean he'd
a
written a
note a
note?
note he had made, right? And I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess the movie's out. I guess it doesn't really matter. At the beginning of the film, if people have seen Highest to Lowest, I had a sort of a moment where we established the kidnapper very briefly could potentially be at the opening basketball camp he's taking his son to, right? I had basically like as they're walking in, there was a person getting a ticket. A police officer was writing them a ticket, and sort of Denzel clocks this thing. And later on, that ticket was then used as a way of helping tie him to the wrong kidnap. And ultimately, this changed in the edit, right? As through the rewriting of the script. But very early on, Denzel wanted me to take that ticket out, and he said because his character would never look at someone the way I guess he thought I was saying he would look at him, and I was pushing back because I was saying basically if you don't do this, the whole second half of the movie is going to fall apart from a structural standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint. And what he kept saying was, and this is probably why he's one of the greatest actors to work in the last 100 years or whatever. What he was saying was, my character would never do this. My character would never do this. I don't care if it matters for the whole story. On a micro level, my character would never do this, right? And for me, at least, it was a real lesson in micro versus macro. Because as the writer, as the director, you're looking at the whole macro of the project. You're looking at the whole story, right? As an actor, he's working moment to moment. And I see you grinning because now you're working moment to moment versus thinking
Uh,
about the whole story, right?
I got an answer for that.
Okay.
Years ago, the great Alan, who's the fate of Virginia Woolf? Jeremiah, help me. Alan
Wait,
Schneider.
was it
Alan
right?
Schneider, the director Alan Schneider,
Hmm.
famous American director, who directed Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and many other things. He comes to APA to
Yeah.
do this very small Archibald MacLeish play called Heracles.
Jack disappeared. I don't really know what's happening. There's been a change in his device, is what they just told me. Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to get Jack back on this. All right. Sorry about that, everyone. We're back. Apparently, the internet didn't want Jack to share his story. We were
Didn't.
just going through the difference because I was talking about the lesson I learned when I was working with Denzel about macro versus micro, right? As an actor, from a micro perspective versus, the director and or the writer looking at the story from a macro perspective. It was helpful for me to hear that perspective and be like, oh yeah, we're constantly trying to balance out these opposites. And you started grinning and you said, I have a story for this. So talk to me.
Also, excuse me, the difference between a director and an actor. Denzel says, my character wouldn't do this. My character wouldn't, I just can't find truth in that. So
Right.
years ago, when I was a kid in APA, Rosemary Harris is being directed by the great Alan Schneider, who had directed Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And she's playing this character who is married to Heracles, Megara, I think her name was. And they're in rehearsal. And I'm sitting next to the great Alan Schneider, taking his notes, and he's being such an asshole to people and so cruel, I can't begin to tell you. He's gone now, so I don't worry about it. But at any rate, I was shocked because he was so rude. And Rosemary's protesting. And he said, you blah, 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 you do this. And she said, my character wouldn't do that. My character just wouldn't. And he said quietly, she might. And there was a beat. And Rosemary laughed and she said, yeah, she might. And it was such a wonderfully human moment because we all have these ideas that we protect, you know.
Right.
I mean, that we're talking about options and stuff. And it's very interesting to me that Denzel would hunker down and protect that when you think, but he might. You know, it's just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, ultimately what was interesting is that by making that change, it changed a lot of the second half of the movie, which is why I had to come back in and do a lot of work on the movie later on in the process by trying to
because he wouldn't clock it, right? He didn't clock it.
Right, no, we took that out, right? And so like then when you come back in later to do a lot of work on the script, because again, I was just a problem solver, right? You have all these different voices at a table saying this and this and this and this, and I come to it, you know, it's interesting because I mean, I'm curious from a director's standpoint, right? Because as a writer, it's like this first draft is mine and I get to do what I want to with it. And then when I come to the table and everyone else sits around, right? And there's like a lot of people working on this movie. And I, you know, again, I wasn't even at the official table necessarily. I'm just trying to help as best I can from the peripheral. When I get notes back, it's like, how can I keep everyone happy at the table? You know, I'm more like the hired help serving the dinner. And so it's interesting that shift, and that was, I don't know, it was helpful for me to see though, right? That was my first time being with personalities that big in one room.
There's also, as we know famously, a different perspective on people doing film and in terms of their attitude toward the writer, and people on the stage and their attitude toward the writer.
Right.
And you know, that was what was so painful to me when in our inaugural experience doing Safe Space, where the actress did not credit you. Now, I realized that she was terrified and she was panic-stricken and she didn't want to let that known. So she made it about that. But I who was there for all I knew, this was your 10th show. I didn't know it was your first. Mm-hmm. And I was treating it as if it were your 10th show. And she's being contemptuous about the value of your words, which was really painful to me. And to the point where I was roused to have a confrontation unlike any I've ever had in all my experience, because I found that so painful. And I don't think that Los Angeles, where the film personality thing is so tactile and so much a part of the game, the appeal, the necessity for that star quality to be unimpaired, it comes up against problem solving.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, and again, it was good for me. I mean, it's funny, man, because when I think back about Safe Space, it was sort of similar to Highest to Lowest in a lot of ways, where I was trying to work as a problem solver in both, right? And maybe in film, I'm supposed to be more of a problem solver and serve all these other people. And maybe in the theater, I just wasn't ready to actually stand up for myself. You know what I mean? But it's good. I look back and think, okay, I'm really into this thing now, man, of like, no matter what has happened to me in my life, what was the glass half full version of that, right? And I carried around so much guilt and shame and disappointment with Safe Space for so long. And now I look at it as, you know what? I was in there with someone who was really pushing back with me. And I learned that if you're going to be at that table, you got to be ready to push back. But what's funny is that's what I did with Denzel. You know what I mean? Now, the woman on Safe Space is not near Denzel Washington, but because I had been through that process, I was ready to then stand up for myself. Now, here's the thing. It didn't necessarily work out better. Do you know what I mean? It's just, but I was in a position where, because of the experience you and I had, I was able to stand up for myself differently and at least be confident in what I was saying in the moment. Because I will tell you that after my interaction with Denzel about the one note, I then went back and said, look, if this isn't what your character does, I agree. Here's what we have to do. Like, if you decide this is not what your character does, right? And I'm a problem solver, here's how we solve the problem of the last 60 pages of the movie, right? And that's what I came back with, versus saying, you're wrong and throwing the pages in the air. Do you know what I mean? And I think, like, I don't know, Safe Space helped me with that. in the long run. I believe.
I'm not sure I'm fair to say this, but you see, I think there's a step missing here in terms of your development as a writer, because I think you are not always aware how well you write because you're so concentrated on solving the problems. Your respect for structure fascinates me because a lot of people don't have it. And you and I are involved in another project tangentially in which that very process is being activated, and you're on the front foot with it in a remarkable way, because the person writing the script is so much enamored of your problem solving, he doesn't find you a threat. What happened with Safe Space was, and I haven't read yet enough of all of your work to be able to be helpful here, because I've read a draft of the Bowie, I've read a draft of the bicycle film.
Whatever. The first one, no one knows what that is. It's not a real thing.
Well, it doesn't matter that it is. What I'm saying is, in the time we spend together, I'm way on the tiny level of an expertise of knowing what it is you do. But I have found your writing phenomenal, and I don't think you think enough about it. I think it's just coming out of you, and I think your determination to be smart about structure, which is enviable and going to stand you in extremely good stead all your life. You don't yet realize what a fabulous writer you are.
But then this is a real. I mean, look, man, I'm probably turning 8 shades of red because of this, right? But actually, but here's the thing, man. I think we're getting something really interesting, because here's where I've come up against so much disappointment, and why I now look at myself as just a problem solver, because nothing got made
yet.
Well, but I mean, you know what I mean? It's no. What I mean is, though, that like, you're right, man. I wrote Safe Space from a place of like,
passion.
I'll be really honest here. I wrote Safe Space from a place of, I know something other people need to know.
That's right. You
right.
Did.
And I remember when people first started reading it, them calling me and being like, this is out of here. Do you know what I remember? I remember multiple people saying things like, Nobel Prize, like things like that. Right.
Pulitzer Prize. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Pulitzer Prize. And it didn't work. It just didn't work, right? And I had gone off by that time to Los Angeles to start working on these movies, and man, I just couldn't get anything made. And I know that the answer is, right? I mean, because this is interesting too, man, about the generational thing, right? It's like, at your age, I've been doing this no time, right? Yeah. But when you're in it, I've been doing it 7 years.
I know that.
And it just feels like a lifetime. And it's interesting, but that tension, right? I have to believe, I know I've said this to you before, that like growth occurs at the tension of the opposites. I have to believe that tension has to lead to something.
Of course it does.
It has to birth something, and it'll birth a third rail thing.
But you as yourself have told me, and other people have told me, scripts lie around and get dust, and then suddenly somebody picks it up, and it's a phenomenon. I mean, the value of the writing has to be voiced before you can hear it. It lies there passive on the page if somebody's thinking something else is important. There are two skills here. There's a skill basically having to do with the structure of a story, which in my not limited experience with writers, Terrence McNally, all these people that I've worked with over my life, Sondheim, are variable. There are various skills going on there. And then there's the sound that the writer makes.
Yeah.
And if you say it didn't work, and immediately I want to say, I'd go into rehearsal with that fucking script tomorrow if I had an opportunity. I do believe in it. I loved working on that script. I thought that play was really, I mean, we had a tough row to hoe there, and no, we didn't get it right. But I still look at that as one of the most valuable experiences of the latter part of my life. I loved it.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so painful for me, because I couldn't make that other key unit work. The other two parts were fine, but we never heard the play. We never heard the play the way you wrote it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We never heard the words you wrote.
Yeah.
And for me, that was, I'm still angry about it.
Yeah. That's all right, man. We learned what we learned, and who knows, man? Maybe we'll do a live reading of Safe Space on the Notes with Jack podcast.
Mm-hmm. I'd love that. We've had some interesting people along the way. Take a look at it. Don't forget.
Yeah, I know. Maybe that's what we'll do sometime. I don't know, man. It's so interesting, and it's so cool to me though to see you going on both sides of it, right? And it's interesting too that obviously that you're a theater director, and you've talked about how you look at serving the writer, and me being a film screenwriter, me serving the director, me serving the actors, right? It's like even though we do different things because of our different, worlds, we do very similar things. And I think that just speaks to the commonalities amongst us, that we're probably wired in similar ways to try and be of service in that way sometimes.
Well, there certainly is. We sort of see something in the other person's field that makes sense to us.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. And I keep your world, mine is too. Mine is fucked. No, seriously, the theater's in such shape right now. We don't know what to do. I've had 2 meetings today that will be anonymous about 2 different projects where people are staring with disbelief at Broadway saying, I don't think we want to go near it at the moment. And I've got 3 shows on the road pleasing people.
Yeah. Do you think potentially theater moves back to that? I've one day, and we're probably going too long for this one to talk about it too much, but maybe to tee it up, I've always wanted to talk to you about, like, is there a way of doing a traveling company again or something like that? Would there be a way of incentivizing that to people? Because that's kind of your MO of how you came up, right? And it's like, would that work better than exorbitant ticket prices at exorbitant real estate on Broadway?
I had this image maybe 10 years ago when I was asked to create a national theater. And I said, I need 5 years to do it. I want 100 actors. They have to be able to sing and dance and do classical work. They have to have all the skills. I need them to give me, in a 5-year period, 3 years of priority. And I will put together 2 companies that interlock, and they will play New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and then abroad.
That's cool.
And it was so hot, I can't tell you. And I made the list of the 100 people, and all of them would have done it.
Yeah.
And the word came back, how much will this cost? And my answer was, I don't know, but the National Theatre of Great Britain at that time was given 17 million pounds a year by the government. And that's the last I heard of it. So don't talk to me about a company that would tour and do great.
I know, but there's gotta be something to that. Because that's not, listen, I don't know. I don't have the exchange rate written on my hand, so I don't know what it is. But that's $35 million. What is that? That's 17 million pounds. I guess that was 10 years ago. So it's probably quite a bit more because of inflation.
It is more.
But even you think about how many movies cost $100 million.
$30 million. I know.
More than that. I'm saying even with inflation, right? It's like the price you said, let's say $100 million. How many movies come out that cost $100 million that don't make their money back? I don't know what the economics are of putting people in seats for theater of a national company like that, but it feels like an original enough idea that if you had actors and performers that wanted to be a part of it, it feels like you make it's not crazy. I don't think it's crazy.
The irony is, my production of Sound of Music is at the moment at the Kennedy Center in Washington.
Yeah.
Doing phenomenal business. My production of Shucked is in San Francisco at the Current, doing phenomenal business.
Yeah.
My production of Charlie and the Chocolate Maker is going to China.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, there's a hunger out there. There are
Yeah.
people who are, you know, I just said to these producers today about about the possible revival of Hairspray. There's nothing for families to come to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
There's
that's where you could, in my opinion, I mean, you could look at it as something as like, how do we, because things feel so polarized. It's like something like a national theater that could somehow bridge that and work on trying to inhabit the middle, right? And like appealing to different types of, every demographic. I wonder if there's a way you could do something like that, because then it becomes more than just, okay, we're doing theater. It becomes, I don't know, man, it's like the Miracle on Ice. It's like growing up, you hear like in the 80s when the US hockey team helped bring people back together. Now, that's obviously a big sort of thing to say, but I don't know. I just think there's such potential in thinking about things differently, right? Because right now, the way things are going are not working for the theater or for the film business, to be honest.
no, the economics are ridiculous. They're ridiculous.
Right. So how do you think differently about it? And whether or not that's achievable, that's a great, unique thought to have.
It is a great
I believe.
thought. I think I'm probably now, I hate to say this, too old.
Yeah.
You got
Dude.
is it, I mean, I've got the energy, I've got the experience,
Honestly,
got
man,
the brains.
Honestly, man, most people would say at 86, you're too old to get your first starring role on a TV show. I don't know. I don't know a lot of 86-year-olds.
I'm not starring. Don't get excited. It's a sort
Well, what
of
are you?
support part. I'm a supporter playing.
Well, what's it called?
What, my role?
You're starring? Yeah, no, I don't mean the name or anything. I mean like it's starring or co-star or what?
No.
I don't know how that works.
Featuring.
Oh.
I'm a feature
Dude,
player.
well, a lot of people said at 86 you were too old to be featured on a hit HBO show.
They may be right.
No, they're not. All right, let's start to wrap this up, man. We got into some good ranting there on the second half.
It was fun.
Man, it was great. I love thinking about things differently. It's my favorite. You know what I mean? I had an ex look at me one time and say, the times I've seen you happiest are when you have ideas you don't think anyone's ever had before. And she was absolutely right. And it broke my heart, but she was absolutely right. And so I love having these kind of conversations about how to think differently about things that I believe value. How do you do them differently? And that's a great idea.
You're sort of unique in that way. As I've said to you, you sort of live on a far curve, and that we have to protect that. We got to get in touch with that, because that's really good stuff.
I don't know, man. For better or worse, there's not a lot of us out here. So anyways, yeah, but thank you, Jack. Thank you everyone for listening. This was great. I guess I'll be seeing you this week out in Hollywood, and we'll check back in after your first few days.
We're going to do this out there, right?
Yeah. Oh, of course, man.
Next
We're not gonna
chapter. I got to dress differently.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. We love you, Jack. We'll talk to you next week.
Love you back. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.